So in this video, we're going to be looking at a new method to graph lines. So before we were graphing with tables and the x and y intercepts, which was a little cumbersome and it took a little bit more work. Now we're kind of learning the shortcut, the slope-intercept version. So slope-intercept means that you have to get y by itself. So you have y equals mx plus b. So the m stands for the slope, which is a rate. It's a rise over run. And then b stands for the y-intercept. So when you are given something in slope-intercept form, y equals, the shortcut to graph is to plot b on the y-axis because it's the y-intercept, and then do m. So from that point that you just plotted on the y-axis, then you're going to rise and run. Or if it's negative, fall and run. So our first example, y equals -8 plus 3x. So this is almost already in slope-intercept form. So slope-intercept form says I need y equals mx plus b, which means I just need to switch those two. So I'll have y equals 3x minus 8. Now it's set up nicely in slope-intercept form. So it's mx, so the number in front of x is m, so that is my slope. So slope will be 3, and then b is -8. Now in Hawks, they're going to want you to put it in a point. So remember the y-intercept is 0 and then the number. So you'll have your y-intercept will be 0, -8. And then your second step is to graph it. So on the previous page, we said that plot b, do m. So step 1, plot b. So I'm going to plot b on the y-axis, so -8. On the y-axis, I'm going to go down 8. So plot b. And then from that point, do m. Well, m right now isn't a fraction, but I can write it as 3 over 1, which means rise 3, run 1. Now, I'm always going to run to the right. So I'm going to rise 3, 1, 2, 3, and 1, run 1. And so then I'll put a dot. So rise 3, run 1. And then I will connect those up. Now in Hawks, you will just plot one and plot the other, and it'll autofill that line for you, just like we've been doing. But the big thing is that you have to plot b first, and again, that always happens on the y-axis. So you plot on this axis, and then from that point, you're going to rise the number, run to the right. If it's negative, you're going to fall and still run to the right. Okay, so my next example says, all right, well, find the slope. You've got 2 points, find the slope. Well, the slope is a rise over run, and rise is happening in the y's. So, right, it's going up and down. So that's going to be y2 minus y1, which means subtract the second y from the first y. Over run, rise over run. So I'm going to do x2 minus x1. Okay, so what that means, subtract your y's from back to front, right? Because this is y2, y1. That's the second y and the first y. So I'll have -1 minus 5. Okay. Over, subtract your x's from back to front because this is x2 and x1. So I have 0 minus -3. On top, -1 minus 5 gives me -6. On the bottom, negative turns into positive, so I have 3. -6 divided by 3 is going to give me -2. So my slope is -2. All right, last example says, consider these 2 points. They gave them to me graphed, but consider the point 1, 7 and 3, 7. Find the slope. So you'll notice that this is not a normal line. This is one of those special cases. It's actually a horizontal line. So we talked about this acronym HOI-VUX. So horizontal lines have y equals, vertical lines have x equals. So this thing right here, since it's a horizontal line, it must be a y equals equation. But they just said find the slope. Well, this middle thing in the hoy, that 0, that tells me that the slope of any horizontal line is 0. Since it's horizontal. If it was a vertical line, my slope would be the u, which stands for undefined. So because this is a horizontal line, my slope is 0. Now step 2 says find the y-intercept. Well, where does this thing cross the y-axis? Here's my y-axis. It crosses right there at y equals 7. So my y-intercept is going to be 0, 7, because that's the point it crosses at. And then the last one says determine the equation of the line. Well, here, hoy stands for horizontal line, the slope is 0, and the equation is y equals. And I want the equation. So I'm going to have y equals, well, y equals what? That thing goes through the point y equals 7. So that's going to be my equation.